Stop scrolling for a second because most men have misunderstood female attraction their entire lives. Not because they're stupid, not because women are too complicated, but because women rarely show attraction the way men expect them to. Men look for obvious signals. Women usually communicate attraction through awareness, positioning, energy, and small emotional behaviors most guys completely overlook. This is Isabella, and today we're breaking down 8 signs women are deeply attracted to you, even when they try not to make it obvious. And honestly, some of these signs are so subtle that many men spend years believing women were never interested in them when the opposite was actually true. So, before we start, I want you to comment your city below because I always enjoy seeing where everyone is watching from. And if you enjoy these conversations about female psychology, attraction, and relationships, subscribe and join the community because the next signs are going to completely change the way many of you read female behavior from now on. The first sign is lingering eye contact. And honestly, this is probably the most common attraction signal men completely ignore because they convince themselves it meant nothing. Here's how it usually happens. You look up somewhere ordinary, maybe a cafe, gym, store, or social event, and your eyes meet hers. But instead of instantly looking away like strangers normally do, she holds the eye contact slightly longer than necessary. Then she looks away. And a few seconds later, she looks back again. That second look matters. Women rarely stare directly the way men do. Attraction for women often starts with awareness first. She notices you, feels curious, then quietly checks if you noticed her too. That's why repeated is such a powerful sign psychologically. And honestly, many attractive men miss this because they assume women would be more obvious if they were interested. But women usually signal first instead of openly chasing. The eye contact is often the invitation, not the entire conversation. The second sign is proximity. And honestly, this is one of the attraction signals women use the most because it allows them to create opportunities without directly chasing a man openly. Women rarely approach attraction aggressively. Instead, they position themselves around it. You'll notice she keeps ending up near you in group settings. She chooses the seat beside you, even when other options exist. She joins conversations you're already part of. Sometimes she suddenly appears near you repeatedly in places where interaction can happen naturally. And most men call this coincidence. But psychologically, proximity matters a lot in attraction. Women usually move closer to men they feel curious about because closeness creates familiarity, comfort, and opportunities for emotional connection without needing direct rejection risk. And honestly, many men completely miss this sign because they're waiting for women to verbally announce attraction clearly. But attraction for women often begins quietly through positioning and awareness first. A woman who keeps placing herself inside your environment repeatedly is usually hoping interaction happens naturally without her needing to openly force it. The third sign is that people become unusually attentive when you speak, especially women. And honestly, this has less to do with being loud or dominant and more to do with presence. Some men walk into a room and force attention. Other men naturally hold it without trying. And women notice that difference immediately. You may notice conversations quiet slightly when you start talking. Women turn their bodies towards you. They stay engaged longer during conversations. They react strongly to simple comments you make while other men are competing loudly for attention around you. That's presence psychologically. And honestly, this becomes even more attractive as men get older because women start valuing emotional steadiness more than performance. A calm, grounded man often feels much more attractive than a man desperately trying to impress everyone around him. And the interesting part is that many highly attractive men completely miss this sign because they think attraction always has to look dramatic. But sometimes attraction looks like quiet attention, focused energy, and women naturally wanting to stay engaged when you speak. The fourth sign is mirroring. And honestly, this one is so subtle that most men never notice it happening in real time. But psychologically, mirroring is one of the strongest unconscious signs of emotional comfort and attraction. Here's what it looks like. You lean back, and a few moments later, she leans back, too. You slow your speech slightly, and her tone starts matching yours. You touch your face, and seconds later, she touches hers. That's not random. That's nervous system alignment. When women feel emotionally comfortable and drawn toward a man, their body language often starts syncing naturally with his without them consciously realizing it. And the interesting part is that this usually happens more around men women feel safe and emotionally connected to. Because attraction for women is heavily connected to emotional comfort psychologically. And honestly, men who create calm energy often trigger this behavior the most. Not because they are performing, but because their presence naturally relaxes people around them emotionally. The fifth sign is compliments that go beyond your appearance. And honestly, this is where attraction becomes much deeper psychologically. A woman saying you look good is nice, but when she starts complimenting your energy, your calmness, your voice, or how comfortable she feels around you, that means something very different emotionally. Because now she's reacting to your presence, not just your looks. She might say things like, "You feel different. You're easy to talk to. I feel weirdly comfortable around you." And many men completely brush these comments off without realizing how powerful they actually are. Women rarely describe emotional comfort around men they feel nothing toward. Attraction for women often grows through emotional safety, calmness, and connection first. That's why many women become deeply drawn to men who make them feel relaxed emotionally instead of pressured, judged, or emotionally drained. And honestly, men who naturally create that feeling usually underestimate how attractive they actually are to women. The sixth sign is repeated glances when you're not directly interacting with her. And honestly, this is one of the clearest attraction signs women give without verbally saying anything. You catch her looking at you across the room, then she quickly looks away. A few minutes later, it happens again, and most men instantly convince themselves they imagined it. But psychologically, people repeatedly look toward what emotionally interests them. Women especially tend to observe men they feel attracted to before making interaction more obvious. They study energy first, confidence, presence, the way you move and interact socially. And honestly, attractive men often miss this sign the most because they assume women would be much more direct if they were truly interested. But attraction for women usually begins through observation before action. A woman repeatedly checking your presence visually is often emotionally curious about you already. She's quietly trying to understand your energy before deciding whether she feels safe and comfortable opening the interaction further. The seventh sign has nothing to do with the woman directly. It's how other men respond to you around women. And honestly, women pay attention to male social dynamics much more than many guys realize. Some men become quieter around you. Some try competing harder when women are nearby. Others immediately respect you without needing long conversations. Women notice all of that because psychologically, men naturally react to status, confidence, and presence subconsciously. And women often use those social reactions as information about a man's value without even realizing it themselves. And honestly, truly attractive men rarely force status aggressively. They don't need to dominate every room loudly. Their confidence feels calm instead of performative. That quiet confidence creates attention naturally. And women usually feel the difference immediately between a man trying to prove value and a man who already feels secure in himself emotionally. The eighth sign is when women assume you already have options. And honestly, this one surprises many men because it usually happens before dating or exclusivity is even discussed. She says things like, "You probably have women texting you. I'm sure girls flirt with you all the time. You definitely know what you're doing." And many men think she's joking. Most of the time, she's not. Women often say these things when a man carries calm, non-desperate energy. A man who doesn't chase too hard, over-explain himself, or seek validation constantly naturally feels more attractive psychologically. Because desperation has an emotional signature, and confidence does, too. A man who feels emotionally grounded gives the impression that women already want him, even if he personally doesn't realize it yet. And honestly, women are naturally drawn toward men who seem comfortable, whether they get approval or not. The ninth sign is the one most men struggle to believe, even when it's happening directly in front of them. Women become nervous around men they genuinely feel attracted to, too. Not all women become bold and confident when they like someone. Some become awkward. They laugh more than usual. They stumble slightly over words. They suddenly become hyper-aware of themselves around you. Sometimes they tease you more. Other times they become quieter and more emotionally careful. And honestly, many men misread this completely. They assume confidence equals attraction and nervousness means disinterest. But psychologically, attraction creates emotional pressure, too. A woman who genuinely cares how you see her often becomes more self-conscious around you because your opinion suddenly matters emotionally. And that nervous energy is usually much more real than overly polished flirting. Most men think attraction should look obvious if a woman truly likes them. They expect direct, flirting, constant texting, or some dramatic clear signal they can't possibly miss. But honestly, female attraction usually works much more quietly than that. Women signal first, then they watch. They observe your energy, your confidence, your awareness, and how you carry yourself emotionally before they fully open up. And that's why so many men spend years believing they were invisible to women, when in reality, women were giving subtle signs the entire time. The problem was never that women weren't interested. The problem was that most men were never taught how to recognize attraction when it appears softly instead of loudly. And honestly, once you start noticing these signs, your entire understanding of dating changes. You stop chasing validation so desperately because you realize attraction often begins long before words are ever spoken directly. Now, I want you to be honest in the comments. Which of these signs have you personally noticed the most from women? And if you enjoy these conversations about female psychology, attraction, confidence, and relationships, subscribe and join the community, because the next videos are going even deeper into modern dating psychology and emotional attraction.